So we're going to continue from where we stopped yesterday. Like I said, the videos are ready for every one of you to always go and watch the video. So we're in day 6 now, and we're going to be talking about encrypt your data. Encrypt your data. Your data should always be encrypted. You may think you have no secrets and nothing to hide, so why use encryption? Maybe you think that nobody wants your data. Most likely, this is probably not true. Anytime you're using, especially you're borrowing a laptop to use, or you're using someone else's system, even your own computer, no matter the login user password you have, always encrypt your file. Now, the good thing is, even if an hacker accesses your file, because all your files has been encrypted, it gives the hacker, even if he copies your file, he won't be able to access your information. Okay? So this can be even more troublesome if a malicious application infects your computer or mobile devices and steals potential valuables, okay? Information such as account numbers and password and other official documents. So that kind of information can lead to identity theft, fraud, or ransom. So criminals may decide to simply encrypt your data and make it unusable until you pay them ransom. This one is even happening recently, where they access your system and they'll tell your organization that for them to have access to all the files on the system of the company, you need to pay them. A lot of stories in Abuja, in Lagos, companies are experiencing it every day. So when we always encourage you to, when you finish, especially when you finish important files, you need to encrypt them. And how do you encrypt this? Well, let's talk about what encryption is so you understand. Encryption is the process of converting the information into a form where an unauthorized party cannot read it. Only trusted authorized person with the secret key or password can de-encrypt that data and access it in its original form. Today, we notice that every file that banks send to you now, they're normally encrypted. So for you to be able to use that file, your statement, for you to use your statement of account, they have to send you a special, email telling you what password they use. Meaning that if somebody have access to that statement of account, the person cannot even open it unless he gets the password. So many banks are doing that now. So the encryption itself does not prevent someone from intercepting the data. Encryption can only prevent an authorized person from viewing or accessing the content, meaning they can copy your files, all right, but they can't have access to the content. So what are the softwares? How can you encrypt? Software programs are used to encrypt files, folders, and even entire drives. So encrypting file system, which is called EFS, is a Windows feature that can encrypt data. EFS is directly linked to a specific user account. So every user account on a computer system have access to do what? To encrypt their file. So only the user that encrypted the data will be able to access it after it has been encrypted using what we call the EFS. So to encrypt data using EFS in all Windows versions, you follow this step. You select one or more files that you want to encrypt, one or more files or folders. Then you right-click the selected data. That's, you right-click the folder. Then you click on properties. When you click on properties, you click on advanced. All right. Then step 4, select the encrypted content to secure data checkbox. Then you select the checkbox. Okay. Then step 5, files and folders that have been encrypted with EFS are displayed in green as shown in the figure. You can see the screen there. They will now become green to show that they are encrypted. Okay. Okay. So let's move to backup, how you back up your data, Your hard drive may fail, your laptop could be lost, your smartphone stolen. Maybe you erased the original version of an important document. Having a backup may prevent the loss of irreplaceable data, such as family photos. To back up data properly, you will need an additional storage location for the data, and you must copy the data to that location regularly and automatically. Now, what does this mean? There are a lot of hard drives I've had that I've misplaced, but you know what I do? Immediately, I have what we call a terabyte hard drive. Now, you cannot even access this hard drive unless you plug it. That is where I store all my, because I know from the time I've been into IT, I've been having to store, design, do trainings, content, different training content for the past 10 years. So what do? I make sure I back them up in a separate drive that I bought that is about 4 terabytes. Now, whatever work I do in the house or in the office, at the end of the day, I make sure I plug that hard drive and I back it up into that hard drive. So if there's any problem any day, I can always come back and enter and pick up. So if I have a file I need after losing a laptop or something, I just go back there and check, and I'll still see the files sitting there. So that is how to back up, to have a backup data. All right. I've used like 4, I've used several phones. Every of my several phones, the information on it is always backup on that terabyte. If I lose the phone, I still can go back and get my information. And that is why I've been able to sustain contacts and keep records as well. So we're going to be talking about different types of local and cloud backups. So the additional location for your backup files can be your home network, which I mentioned. A secondary location is the cloud. So by storing the backup of the data locally, you have total control of the data. So you can decide to copy all of your data to a network attached storage device, which is called NAS, or simply external hard drive, like the one I have. It's called external. Okay, it's not connected to any network. So maybe select only few important folders for backup on thumb drives, like CD drives, DVDs, or even tapes. So in that scenario, you are the owner and you are totally responsible for the cost and maintenance of that storage device's equipment. So if you subscribe to a cloud storage service, the cost depends on the amount of storage space needed. So when a cloud storage service like Amazon Web Service, which is what most of the organizations are using now because of the security they have, okay, you have access to your backup data as long as you have access to your account. When you subscribe to an online storage services, you may need to be more selective about the data being backed up due to the cost of the storage, okay? Because every storage has its own costs. So one of the benefits of storing backup at an alternate location is that it is safe in the event of fire, theft, other catastrophes other than storage device failure. All right. So why the cloud is good? A lot of people are using the cloud. Nigerian too just created one, and I don't know if they are really promoting it the way everybody is promoting Amazon. I know Nigeria has a local, we have a cloud there that GTB is controlling. Most of the banks are actually using that cloud. So many hackers have tried all their best to access that cloud. The cloud is sitting here in Lagos. All right. So what am I trying to say? You can actually use most of the websites you see today, most of the content you see online, bankers and all, that is the storage you're using. And that is why sometimes you find out that you hardly find network issues with GT banks. When I mean network issues, the only reason you can experience is either their power is having issues and they have to restart the system. Even that, they still have a lot of backups. Because if their website was sitting in Amazon in US, they will be having network issues. That's why some of these banks you have today, they're having network issues because most of them are using Amazon to host their website for security reasons. And their network is always having issues as well. So these are one of the problems. We are not talking about networking here, we're talking about storage. So let me move on. So please don't forget your labs, like I told you. Get on your labs and start doing all your lab work. It is very important. Okay? So let's talk about deleting your data permanently. Deleting your data permanently. When you move a file to a recycle bin or trash and delete it permanently, the file is only inaccessible from the operating system. It doesn't mean the file is not still there. So listen, anyone with the right forensic tools, there's what we call forensic tools. Those are the tools you'll be using as a cybersecurity person, can still recover the file due to a magnetic trace left on the hard drive. So when your file is deleted, they can still access it. That's what they're saying. In order to erase data so that it is no longer recoverable, the data must be overwritten with ones and zeros multiple times. To prevent the recovery of deleted files, you may need to use tools specifically designed to do just that. The program called XDelete from Microsoft, okay, claims to have the ability to remove sensitive files completely. So that means for every file you're trying to delete, you must use a particular software to delete it permanently. Then there's another one called Shred for Linux. Shred for Linux is and secure empty trash, and that's Shred for Linux and secure empty trash for Macintosh. Meaning, if you are using a Windows, you use XDelete. If you're using a Linux operating system, you use Shred application. Then if you are using Macintosh, which is Mac OS, you are using, that's Apple laptop, you are using secure empty trash software. Now, these softwares are some tools that claim to provide a similar service. So the only way to be certain that data or files are not recoverable is to physically destroy the hard drive or storage devices. It has been the folly of many criminals in thinking their files were impenetrable or irrecoverable. But besides storing data on your local hard drives, your data may also be stored online in the cloud. Those copies will also need to be deleted. So take a moment to ask yourself, where do I save my data? Is it backup somewhere? Is it encrypted? When you need to delete your data or get rid of a hard drive or computer, ask yourself, have I safeguarded the data to keep it from falling into the wrong hands? So encryption is still what we're talking about. So we're talking about the data maintenance. How do you maintain your data? Okay. So from this, you have to still go to the who owns your lab. Okay. You have to do that lab. So all these labs I'm saying are important and you have to do it. So let's move to the two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication. This is another, strong authentication processes for safeguarding your online privacy. Okay. So we are still in the topic protecting your data and privacy. All right. So popularly, online services such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple, and Microsoft use two-factor authentication to add an extra layer of security for account logins.
We are only 4 people. People don't know. Only 4.
On what?
And this cybersecurity.
Let me see the one.
So there is what we call two-factor authentication. When you are registering your emails or you're using your phone, these organizations always require you to activate it because it adds an extra layer of security for account logins. So beside the username and password or personal identification number or pattern, two-factor authentication requires a second token, such as a physical object, which is a credit card, ATM card, phone, or FOBs, okay? Or you use your biometric scan. So fingerprint like palm print, as well as facial or voice recognition. A lot of people are using, you see most of the phones they give you today, they have facial, they have voice, okay? These are two-factor authentication. Even with the two-factor authentication, hackers can still gain access to your online accounts. Through what? Through what they call attacks, such as phishing attack. They call it phishing attacks. So even if you have the authentication, they can use phishing attacks to access it, okay? Or they can use malware or what they call social engineering, okay? So you can learn more of this two-factor authentication by clicking on your class. So you need to get into the class. So there's another thing we call open authorization, okay? Open authorization is an open standard protocol that allows an end user's credentials to access third-party applications without exposing the user's password, okay? So a open authentication called OAuth acts as the middleman to decide whether to allow end users access to the third-party application. For example, say you want to access a web application XYZ, all right? You can see the diagram, and you do not have a user account for accessing this web application. However, XYZ has the option to allow you to log in using the credentials from a social media website, ABC. So you can have access to the website using the social media login. That is what they call. We always observe this one all the time. We observe this one all the time. When you want to enter Facebook, Facebook will allow you to use your Google to log into your Facebook. Sometimes, most of them is Google. And the reason why most of them use Google is because Google has a standard authentication process, all right? So people trust Google. You know, you can actually see hackers. It's not like hackers cannot hack them. But what I'm trying to say is they spend so much billions on their cybersecurity, all right? So the way open authorization works is that it allows you access another server through a particular token from another server, okay? So for this to work, the application XYZ is registered with ABC and is an approved application. So when you access XYZ, you use your credentials, your user's credential, also for ABC. Then XYZ requests an access token from ABC on your behalf. Now you can have access to XYZ. Now XYZ knows nothing about you and your user credentials. And this interaction is totally seamless for the user. So using secret tokens prevents a malicious application from getting your information and your data. So those are methods you can actually use to prevent your data online. So now let's look at sharing too much information. Now it is very important. Most times I tell people, your phone, when you buy your phone, go to the settings and disable a lot of things. All right, go make sure you disable a lot of things. If you want to keep your privacy on social media, share as little information as possible. You should not share information like your birth date, email addresses, on your phone numbers, on your profile. The people who need to know your personal information probably already know it. So do not fill out your social media profile completely. Only provide only provide the minimum required information. Furthermore, check your social media settings to allow only people you know to see your activities or engage in your conversation. That is why Facebook had to create privacy. Okay, for people, you can disable it. When Facebook came, it came fully with people just updating their profile, updating their full details, their date of birth and all that. Later, they noticed that hackers was actually working with all those things. So what did they do? They had to make sure they create what we call privacy. So you can private your profile for people not to have access to it. And you can choose your friend and disable friends you don't want. You can make it only shown to your friends and make it shown to the public. It depends. Everything is in your own course. So we try to tell you, only engage your conversations with people you know. Engage people you know, all right? Except you want to market something and you feel what you have out there cannot, harm you. So the more personal information you share online, the easier it is for someone to create a profile about you and take advantage of you offline. Meaning, someone can pick you, pick your details, pick your phone number, pick everything about you from a particular social media and create a separate profile that has nothing to do with you and be using it to fraud people. That is what they are talking about. Have you ever forgotten the username and password for an online account? What we use is called security questions. All right. Now, security questions help you, such as what is your mother maiden name, or in what city you were born, or are supposed to help you or help keep your account safe from intruders. So, however, anyone who wants to access your account can search for the answers on the internet. You now see. So, because your information has already been on internet, and they will just ask for your name and your median name. So by the time they go to Google and ask for your name and your median name, it will bring your information out. And the reason is because Google search will go and search what it needs to search because you have not done any encryption on it. So what the hackers do, they proceed into
Hello? Hello, Mr. Darren? Hello?
sorry, sorry about that. So the more personal information you share online, the easier it is for someone to create a profile about you and take advantage of you offline. So what it means is when you're creating your profile, make sure you're creating your profile for a reason. Maybe you work in an office, you create, and the reason is because every profile you create, every information you create, Google, the way Google is being built now, Google is being built in a way that it goes to search data, information at a high speed. So as long as your data is sitting on a particular server, Google will search the information out. Have you tried to search your name, your full name on the internet and see what comes out? That is how your data is being exposed. Okay? So we're talking about the email and web browser privacy. Email and web browser privacy. We've talked about the social media privacy. Let's talk about the email and web browser privacy. Every day, millions of email messages are used to communicate with friends and conduct businesses. Now, listen, email is a convenient way to communicate with each other quickly. But when you send an email, it is similar to sending a message using a postcard. The postcard message is transmitted in plain sight of anyone who has access to look. And the email message is transmitted in plain text and is readable by anyone who have access. So these communications are also passed among different servers while en route to the destination. So when you erase your email messages, the message can be archived. It's still there. It has not gone. So the mail servers for some time keeps your information for a while and make sure, okay, this person has not come into the archives to pick up. It takes years for the mails in those archives to go. So anyone with physical access to your computer or your router can view which website you have visited using a web browser history, a cache, and a possible log files. Now, this problem can be minimized by enabling the private browsing mode. So most times when you use your browser, there's what we call a private browsing mode. A private browsing mode does not allow any of your caches, your caches or your history to function. So most of the most popular web browsers that have their own name for private are the Microsoft Internet Explorer. It's called in private. We have Google Chrome. It's called incognito. And we have Mozilla Firefox, which is private tab or private window. Okay, so we still have Safari too. Safari is for those using Apple laptop, okay, or Apple phones. So with private mode enabled, cookies are disabled and temporary internet files and browsing history are removed after closing the window or program. So keeping your internet browsing history private may prevent others from gathering information about your online activities and enticing you to buy something with targeted ads. Even with private browsing enabled and cookies disabled, companies are developing different ways of fingerprinting users in order to gather information and track users' behavior. So for example, in the intermediary devices such as routers can have information about the user's web surfing history. So even if you go off your laptop, the router and the server that you were connecting will still carry your information there. Meaning you are using SpectraNet. Even if everything you have on your distance has been deleted, SpectraNet server can still find a way. There are tools and softwares that they can use to track. So most times when you use that private Ignito or any of those things, they don't have access to it. So ultimately, it is your responsibility to safeguard your data, your identity, and your computing devices when you send an email. Should you include your medical records the next time you browse the internet in your transmission secure, okay? In your transmission secure, just a few simple precautions may save your problems later. So it's important you're very careful, okay? So tomorrow we'll be rounding, like I told you, we are closing the class. It's just remaining 2 chapters. So I believe by tomorrow and next tomorrow, we'll be rounding us. So we'll use the last day to go through the summary of each chapter, and everybody should go to the quiz and do all their exams so they can apply for. So remember what I said, for you to apply for your certificate, you must do your course feedback. Immediately you do your course feedback, your certificate will appear and you can click to get your certificate from your profile. All right, so that is it for today. We'll continue from here tomorrow. Thank you everyone that joined the class today. Thank you.
Hello, Mrs. Dara, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
And this is Dorcas Edemeka.
All right, Mrs. Dorcas.
Yeah, because of the network, the poor network here.
Yeah.
I couldn't connect to you, to the class on time. So please, what was the topic of today's lecture?